You mentioned it, and I mentioned it at the top, WHK in Cleveland. How did that opportunity present itself, and what did you start doing there, and how did that evolve?
Yeah, so I graduated in '95, and I thought I was great. We all had egos there.
Sure.
We're just going to get jobs out of college. And it was hard because you're sending out your cassette tape and a resume pretty much in the mail. It's not like today where you can just send the MP3 or whatever to folks or email your stuff. And turned out I did want to go home. Cleveland had two sports radio stations at the time, WKNR and WHK, which was the smaller of the two stations. But Les Levine, like I said, my dad's good friend, was doing afternoon drive there. He talked to the program director about me, sent the tape, and they hired me that summer. So it was like June or July after I graduated. I started my career there just doing morning sports, like morning sports updates, helping co-host the morning show with a guy named Dan McDowell, who's now a very successful sports talk host in Dallas and has been at the Ticket in Dallas for over 20 years. Dan is very innovative and amazing. And so I was at HK for a year, and then I really got to learn what the business side was all about, because a year in, the station got sold to Salem Broadcasting. We all got fired. I mean, literally they said, you have one more week, clear out your mailboxes and your stuff. And they're changing the station to some Catholic talk format or Christian talk, and WHK will no longer exist. So that was a pretty big punch to the gut, but it was
Sure.
like, all right, I was living at home with my parents. I saved a little bit of money. I wasn't making any money. I mean, I was paid, but not much. And that was the end of my career at HK. It was a year. It was great. Last day of the station, Les was saying his goodbyes. They were signing off, and he brought me in the studio, and I just started bawling my eyes out because I had a blast with the crew, the guys and the girls on the staff, and I figured I'd be there a long time, and I was there one year, and that was it. So,
well, when you think about first-time, full-time gigs, that's kind of that's standard. But I do want to ask you before we move on from WHK, because one of the cool things that I got to do when I was a student at Specs, and I don't think it was they had it for very long, but we had an opportunity to call play-by-play for the Southfield High School as students there. And I've always been fascinated with Ken Cal is one of my heroes, but play-by-play people. And you obviously had that play-by-play. And I see when you were at HK, you did some high school football play-by-play and basketball play-by-play.
Yeah.
What was that like? Because when you think about, your work as a play-by-play man, and you've kind of made it to the pinnacle of that. I mean, you've called the Pistons, the Titans, and so on. What kind of impact did those experiences have on you as you developed your career and moved on?
Well, I mean, to be honest, Ron, I'm at Syracuse. I'm at Madison Square
Right.
Garden calling the Big East tournament. So as a student, everybody used to say, like Ian used to tell us all the time on the phone, or even Tarico would tell us as students, like, this could be the best job you ever have. So cherish what you have now and really soak it in. So when you're at MSG calling, I think that year I was at Madison Square Garden's the pinnacle, like
Right.
you said. So Syracuse St. John's at the Garden was a dream for me. Syracuse in the Big East tournament, although we lost in the first round of Providence, was still awesome. So it's like, you got to hop on the phone, you call home, you call your dad who's in Cleveland, and you go, collect call, or back then I didn't have cell phones, and you're like, I'm at the Garden calling a freaking game. Like, this is it. Like, even if I never get this chance again, you soak it in. So then you're right. The next year I'm at HK doing sportscasts and reporting. And I asked, like, are there going to be any play-by-play opportunities? There was a guy that had called high school sports for many years. I think still does back in Cleveland. He's been around forever, Adam Mendoza. And I was like, I know Adam is sort of the king of high school, but can I get a game or two, or because I want to keep doing it. So to go from, you're right, the Garden, where everything's paid for by the student station, to, you're going to get $50 to a game to broadcast a high school game in Chardon or something.
Right.
Was a little bit of a step down, but I loved it. I still loved the environment and the atmosphere, and it was on a professional station as opposed to the student station. So it was pretty cool.